Wondering if a Lu Bu is any good in combat? Well, in this video, we're going to get a look at a bunch of reports courtesy of TinTin, who took his expertise to Lu Bu for a spin. So stick around in this video to see whether or not Lu Bu might be worth investing in, and spoiler alert, he does not do so great in these reports. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, a sponsored content creator for Rise of Kingdoms, and today we are going to be talking about whether or not Lu Bu works well, not based on opinions, but based on some actual combat tests. If you like Rise of Kingdoms guides that help you get value and smash your enemies, consider smashing that subscribe button for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos. TinTin was kind enough to send us these combat reports from his own testing, and his expertise, Lu Bu, has been put to work, my friends. So let's get a look at these reports and see what we can figure out. The first report we're looking at is a Lu Bu primary with an Alexander the Great secondary. This is probably not the way I would have arranged the combination, largely because I think the infantry tree from Alex would be better if you're going to bring full infantry. And yeah, TinTin is bringing full infantry. That's the right choice here. What I want to call attention to is the fact that they are bringing different numbers of troops. Because the fourth skill on Lu Bu lets you bring more troops to battle, and because there are talents in the leadership tree that let you bring more troops, it would be ridiculous to not bring more troops. So he's brought an amount proportionate to the number that they're bringing here, which is to have no expansion, and then they're battling it out. If you had no expansion and you brought Lu Bu with the talents that he's chosen and the fourth skill maxed out, that's why you would have 236,000 troops to the 210,000 of Mirage, the player that he's battling against. So that's all totally fine and well. We look over here and we can see Mirage does have the cavalry special unit for Germany. So he does have a couple extra points of stats there, 5% to be specific. Plus he's got the benefit of the special unit. It's worth calling attention to that, but I certainly would not say that that is the reason that this fight ends up the way that it is in favor of Mirage. He's using a Saladin and Takeda. Everybody's got expertise commanders here, and you can see that all in here if you want to go and check out their stats. As I mentioned, I do think an Alexander the Great primary would perform better, and great news, TinTin has in fact delivered on that exact test, now running the Alexander the Great primary against the same combination of Saladin and Takeda, so we can see for our own eyes which would be better, and the result is not surprising. Here we can see that TinTin is better in this instance, but still not winning. This, however, is such a small margin that you might start to say, hey, wait a minute, the special unit here could be a difference maker, and you can see that they have appropriately reduced the number of troops that they're bringing because they don't have the leadership talents giving you 3% extra troop capacity. With that said, there are a couple talents on Alexander the Great that we can start to see are present that I might not necessarily bring. And we can get a look at that because we see the normal attack and counterattack damage are elevated a lot more than they were in the previous report. And that is because a couple talents on Alexander the Great are present. I'll show those to you in just a second. What I do think is interesting here, though, is that the infantry talent tree with Alexander the Great as the primary is performing better. And it doesn't surprise me that you would outperform Lu Bu by having a unit-specific tree than having a leadership tree, which is dependent on having many units. You're using Alexander the Great. You're not going to bring many units to get some of the best benefits of that. So yes, having, I think, Lu Bu really in a secondary in a lot of cases is going to make sense. Those talents I was referring to, by the way, on Alexander the Great that I don't think make a ton of sense in this pairing are going to be, first of all, martial mastery. So this is going to decrease the active skill damage. And although Alexander the Great has no active skill damage, your Lu Bu does have active skill damage, and you could deploy these talents somewhere else. For instance, you could put them into unyielding to increase your counterattack damage, although we could even check to see exactly how many points he had. He may have already picked this up, but you get the idea. You could put them somewhere else. One of those other places that he also has points is fight to the death. I actually think this is fine in this context, increasing all damage dealt and also all damage taken. Since, I mean, look, that is still benefiting you. And I think because you are reducing the defense of the target from Lu Bu, it probably benefits you more than it hurts you for sure. So although in this last duel that we were just looking at, TinTin didn't win, this was very close and he could have been on the verge of tying. But I mean, what, you're going to go invest in a legendary commander because it can tie with Salad and Takeda? I don't think so, right? We got to do better than that. And so he goes and does a few more tests. The next test we're going to look at is a Lu Bu primary with Diao-Chan. I mean, that's exciting, right? They elevate each other's skills significantly. Diao-Chan does double the healing, and Lu Bu gets 50% more attack than he was getting before from his third skill, I believe it is. You get a chance of proccing 80% attack normally, and with Diao-Chan, it goes up to 120% attack. But that goes really poorly. I think there's two reasons that this does not work. First of all, Saladin is countering the healing of Diao-Chan, so that's pretty bad. And second of all, I'm just really surprised, actually. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be too surprised. Because Alexander the Great is one of the very best legendaries in the game. So why would an epic do better? And I get that they're supposed to have really amazing synergy, but it's not that good. So here is the answer to the question of, does Lu Bu Diao-Chan perform so well that you would want to go and invest in that? And certainly not in this context of trying to duel. This is very much one-sided, and I'll put the buffs up on the screen for those of you who want to go and check that out. We also can go and see the special unit that they brought, which in this case, he brought mixed troops, so I am kind of curious to see what build he's using there. He's got the cavalry special unit in this case, so there's an argument to be made he should be bringing more cavalry, although I also would have really liked to have seen the situation where he goes primarily infantry and then a small amount of each other troop type depending on what his build is to activate some of those talents that require multiple troop types. Let's get a look at the next report, which is going to be a Ramses Lu Bu combo versus the very same Saladin and Takeda. The Ramses is a very interesting choice because you could theoretically cut the healing entirely for some amount of time from the Takeda if the timing lines up nicely. However, this still also goes really, really poorly. We bring the Archer normal unit for TinTin, and we've still got the special unit for Germany for Mirage. We can see that these are all expertise commanders. So it does look like that Lu Bu is fine, but he's not game-changing. He's not this commander that if you had him, suddenly you'd start winning fights that you were previously losing. It doesn't seem like that is the case. There are, of course, two more reports here that we have. One of these is a smaller number of troop test. This is where we're using Alexander the Great primary again. However, we're battling against Guan Yu and Alex. Interesting to see these two combinations compared. And unfortunately for the Lu Bu, he loses in this situation as well. I can show you the troop buffs, and they are all expertise commanders. The opposing player does in fact have the special unit for infantry, and we can see that TinTin does not. The difference here looks really small, but it is a smaller number of troops. I'm inclined to believe that just having the special unit is certainly not the sole difference maker here. The next report we can get a look at is a very interesting one. What if you use Lu Bu with Attila just for the defense reduction? Not a combination I would have thought to use against YSS and Wu Zetian, but there's a lot of combinations I haven't thought of that did really well. So looking in at this report, it goes, perhaps as you might have expected, very poorly for the Attila Lu Bu combination, and that is because Attila is reducing active skill damage, and although Lu Bu doesn't do a ton of active skill damage, he is still doing primarily active skill damage as his mechanism for dealing damage, and so it is pretty impactful to reduce that damage by about 30% if I'm remembering correctly. We can see this is pass testing with over 500,000 troops present, and these all are expertise commanders. If we look in here at the units that were brought, the defense has primarily cavalry special units, and which is very interesting for a YSS combination. I sort of wonder what they were doing with equipment, but if we just get a quick look in here, they might not have been using equipment. Maybe they were. Depends on whether or not they're in KVK. If they're doing pass level 1 testing, they technically could still have KVK buffs. But anyways, if we look here, the Attila combination has half special units and half not. TinTin going big with that 50% expansion. Nice. I like it. I appreciate that TinTin sent me these reports, and we need to talk now about what this means for Lu Bu, because he did not perform well really in any of these tests. And that doesn't mean there's no Lu Bu combination. It means that if it exists, we haven't found it yet. And it also means that we need to get a closer look at the role that Lu Bu might fulfill. To do that, I want to get a look at Mehmed, who is extremely similar to Lu Bu. Here we see an area of effect damage ability that hits multiple targets, does a bunch of damage, and does extra damage to cities. Lu Bu does less damage, but has a defense reduction that is really very exceptional. The second skill is an attack bonus and a skill damage bonus, really similar to what Lu Bu is doing, just a little bit less consistency on the Lu Bu when compared to the Mehmed. And this skill is actually identical, increasing your troop capacity whether you are a solo march or a rally by 10%. The expertise skill for both of these commanders simply enhances the active skill, and they both have, by the way, a skill related to hitting cities. So if we look at the role of Mehmed, this might give us some direction about the role of Lu Bu. Mehmed is exceptional in a couple situations. He's exceptional when you actually can take advantage of his area of effect damage hitting multiple targets. A great example of that is in Canyon. For a long time, I was using YSG with Mehmed as a pairing, and even on my newer accounts, once I get to like 5511 on Mehmed, I start using him in the back lane with YSG as a replacement for Kusunoki. So I was using Kusunoki YSG, and then I switch to YSG Mehmed once he's 5511. You could do something similar with Lu Bu, although, gosh, the way you obtain him is really kind of a pain in the butt compared to Mehmed, who at least you can get him for free-ish from gold keys, whereas Lu Bu, that's certainly not the case as of the time of this recording. The other thing that Mehmed does very, very well, and arguably is one of the better commanders in the game for, is hitting cities. Whether you are swarming a city or rallying it, Mehmed does that very, very well, and you compare him with any rage engine of your choice. It could be that the thing that we're really designing Lu Bu to do is to go and hit cities. And yeah, he is a conquering commander, and yeah, he's got a skill specifically for hitting cities. So it shouldn't be too surprising for us that maybe that's just one of the things you should do with him, and field fighting is not that thing unless you actually can hit multiple targets. And if you can hit multiple targets, then I think he's going to do pretty well for you, especially in a big brawl like for the Temple of Osiris. Yes, he would be good there. But are there other commanders that might be better? I would certainly say yes, and I'm not yet going to invest Universal Legendary Commander sculptures in him, in part because we still don't have the complete picture of how this commander is going to become available to us. We do know that there's a bundle. We do know that in the first purchase of this bundle, you get 10 sculptures, and it's going to reset, I believe it's every 6 or 7 days. But what resets is still a little unclear. I'm expecting it's going to be the exact same bundle over and over, but there is a chance that that bundle is going to tier up and tier up and tier up week over week. I feel like they would tell us that if that's what was going to happen. But it could be that regardless of whether or not you've purchased it, the bundle gets better and better over time, such that over the course of the couple months that this is going to be around until 123, you could get enough sculptures to go and expertise him. It's entirely possible that that is how this will work. And if it works that way, depending on the pricing, Lu Bu could be an amazing pickup if you're a spender in Rise of Kingdoms, or it might just be a commander that a lot of people end up skipping. Let me know down below in the comments specifically what combinations you might want to see with Lu Bu, and we can go back to TinTin and ask him potentially to go and test that. And allow me again to express tremendous gratitude to them for doing this testing in the first place. We all really appreciate it, and thank you so much for sharing it with me. In addition, let me know what your other predictions are for Lu Bu down below in the comments. If you haven't already thrown a like on the video, consider doing so. It's free to you. It supports the channel. Also, consider subscribing for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos designed to help you get value and smash your enemies. You can always unsubscribe later. And hey, you might find something else you really like along the way. In fact, 100,000 other people do. So hopefully you will too. And hey, if you're looking for something else to watch, consider my video about which stat is the very best in the game. Spoiler alert, I think it's health. Until next time, my friends, you have fun smashing the kingdom.